ninth tutorial about the core platform series of tutorials. In the previous tutorials, we pretty much covered what has to be done in managing project records, environment, applications credentials, reproducibility assessments through the web UI, and also doing the queries around all the objects in the instance that we provided for the tutorial. So in this tutorial, as I mentioned, in the process of creating projects and records, um, the way that we did before was through the web interface. So it's a very simple way of organizing things, and you can custom design the different contents that you want in your records. So this new video and the next one will be about two software management tools, Sumatra and ReproZip. This video is focusing on Sumatra. So Sumatra is a software management tools that capture simulation executions in in a metadata looking way, where you have the system information, the architecture information, operating system information, the simulation dependencies, the inputs, tracks the files that are being opened by the file, read by the file, and also the output, what was produced by the simulation. So that's how Sumatra operates. And without further ado, I will give you a tour about our integration of the Sumatra code into Core. So basically, what we did was allow Sumatra to be able to be hooked up to the Core platform by using a proper application key, as I mentioned in the application video, and also configuring it with the user credentials from the home page, from the user home page, to allow the application to go through the second security barrier on putting records into the user space. So I'm gonna log back in here. So when I'm logged in here, in the home page, there is this floating button here that appears, that is basically the user settings. So in the first one, about accounts, there is this key here, is that is the API key. Basically, it allows an application that is already authorized to push content to core to push content to this user here, the tutorial user. So that's the key here. But for the sake of providing the location of where the backend is to the application, so we provide a config JSON file that contains all this information in a meaningful way that the simulation management tool can just pull up and get ready to push content to the platform. So let's download this and take a look at the content. So here what we have is we look inside the default configuration. So we have API, which provide the host location. So that's the IP address where the API is located. If you look at it and the one that you see here, they're different, because the IP address on top here is where the front end view server is running. This one is where the API view is running. So this is the flexibility in the way core can be deployed. All different components can run in different servers. So they're actually running right now in totally different servers. So we have the API running on a separate server, the view running on a separate server, the cloud service that is dedicated for the view running on a different server than the view, and DB running in another server. So we have the storage backed up in Amazon S3 bucket. So you download this configuration file and you store it somewhere safe, where you can, where the application management tools can access. And this app section here is where you place the app key that you get from. Let's go back here, go to the dashboard section. So Remember, when I was talking about the applications, I was mentioning that you can either create your own application, which we less recommend. We recommend that you look through first to see if there are applications that exist already. So this is a created application that we tested in one of the tutorials. So you can go back to the tutorials and see which one it is. It's on the application tutorial video. So let's go to the query section and filter down on applications. So this is the normal process of figuring out what credentials you should use for the applications that you want to use. Here in this tutorial, we want to authorize a Sumatra instance to push records. So here we have a version 0.7 of Sumatra and the key right here. So that's the key that we're going to use in this section here. If we want to authorize Sumatra to use this config file to write content to that to my user space, which has this API key. So I'm gonna go to the help, the documentation section here. So in this documentation section, as I mentioned in the earliest, actually the first video, it's describing a little bit how the core platform is and what it's composed of. So here we have links of software management tools that are planned to be supported. These first two are supported. So I'm going to go to the Sumatra one. It's basically going to the Git repo of the integrated Sumatra code. So down here, it basically shows that you have to install few stuff. So you have to download this repo, install Sumatra. It's basically the same code as Sumatra with just a little bit of change. So what we're going to do now is demo this. So I have this terminal here that is ready. So I recommend that to install all these that you have an environment management system. So here, in my case, I'm using Anaconda, so I have Sumatra in an environment. Let me pull it up quickly. So the environment is named Sumatra Env. So sorry, activate. Yep. So now in this environment, I'm in the Sumatra. I have Sumatra being already installed. The version, the core Sumatra version here. So in this repository, when you go down here, we're talking about and some examples, some core examples. I want you to right click this and go take a look at the repository. The repository contains a small Python project about it's a random number drawer. It's an example from the Sumatra source code itself. So it's a Python code that is just drawing random numbers from the NumPy library, using the NumPy library. So that's the examples that we have here. So what we did is just basically we made a copy of the source code Python core Python into SMT 1717. So that's the project we want to focus on. So I'm gonna just cd into SMT 1717. It's basically still the same source code. So it contains the main py that I just showed you, the random number drawer. I'm just gonna clean -r data slash. Just want to clean everything inside this data folder just to be sure. So now the process of using this Sumatra, this modified Sumatra code is not different from using Sumatra at all. So first of all, when using Sumatra, you have to set up version control. So here we're gonna set up Git in this repository. So Git init. So we initialize Git add all. So we're adding everything and Git commit initial commit. So at this point here, we have everything in version control. So yeah. So now let's go back here. So we describe also what is the content of the config file that we just talked about, and how you place the application key. So let me show you here. I have a specific folder here that I have in my computer where I have my config files, and I name them in a certain way. So I'm gonna open the SMT config file. So you have here um, the application key and the application key down here, and my user API key here. So I have to make this be identical to the user that I have, and then this one identical to the application. So let's first compare the application one. So here I have Sumatra right here. If we compare these two, they should be identical. So trust me that they're identical. We'll test and you'll see that they're identical. So let's go back to the user side. So I want to take a look back at this. So that's a configuration file that I used, that I downloaded from my user space. And what I want to do is edit this one and put the user, the current user one. So I'm gonna do SMT, and then we'll replace this one that was used for another purpose with the new one, the user one that I have. So let's reduce this now. So let's go further in this application setup. So in Sumatra, normally when you initialize the project, you have to use this command here, SMT init, and you have to provide this, what is called the record store information location. So either using Mongo, not Mongo, but Django store record store, or Postgres based storage, or an HTTP based storage. The core backend is sort of an HTTP record store, so it's a little bit of a fork of that. So that's why we use -init, and we provide the config file. So basically, Sumatra is going to extract all the information to instantiate an HTTP record store that is allowed to communicate with the core backend. So so we're going to do here SMT init that -s and provide this thing here, right there, and say SMT config. And here we're gonna give the project name. So I'm gonna keep it SMT 1717, and then run this. So basically, we have set up the new project now. So let's go back to my dashboard here and take a look. So until now, nothing yet is provided. So there is still the 3 project that we have up to now. So after, at this point, the simulation that we are trying to record here, normally to run it, we would do Python main.py default param. So Sumatra, as we said, is a software management tool. It will execute your simulation on your behalf and track everything that happened when you're running it, when it's being run. So instead of running it this way, you would prefix it and change the syntax a little bit that way, this way. So we would use this since it's adapted for the example, and come here and we paste this here. So basically, we ask Sumatra to execute Python main.py with the input file default param, and then we would run this. So it would start running, and then whatever content that this simulation touch, it's going to record. So let's go back now to the home page. So before, we didn't have a project. So when there is no project there that is named SMT 1717, it's basically going to create a project and then push the first record. So if I refresh this page, we'll see that we have a new project here named SMT 1717. There is no information provided through it as it is right now because the integration with the Sumatra code is still going on, and we have the first record that was pushed. So we have here, if we look at the statistics, we have zero inputs. So the way Sumatra executes it didn't allow it to capture the default parameter as like a physical input file, but it allows the capture of an output file that was produced. That is the file about the the random numbers that are being drawn and dumped in the data folder, and it has three dependencies. So if you remember in the previous tutorials, to reach to this point, you will have to create the project manually and then create this record here manually too. So let's download this and see how Sumatra provide this the execution. Sumatra captures the execution information. So we have this record here that is downloaded and opened. So in the record information in JSON, we have all the user information as we explained before in the records management video. So and down here we see that Sumatra captured the system information about my computer. So we have the architecture, we have the operating system, and so on and so forth. So we've seen that there are three dependencies. So let's look at the dependency file. So we have SciPy being used, NumPy being used, and nose being used. So these libraries imported was used during the execution of the simulation, and we have actually here the version number of these different libraries, which is a very good thing when we want to recreate the environment or recreate the dependencies that led to generate this output, the output file, or led to get this execution going. So in the input files, we've seen that there is nothing, so we prove that there is nothing. And in the output file, we've seen that there is an example to that was created with this size and a digest that came from it for it. So the actual output file now is the random numbers being dumped here. So that was captured by Sumatra during the execution too. And of course also the project information SMT 1717. So at this point, that what Sumatra would give you as a record. So if we run it a second time, let's try that. It would just add the record on it in the project that is already created. It would not create another project. So if we refresh this, we should see two records now. And if I run it the second time, we'll have a third record being created. Yep, and we see here that the SMT app is project is growing in size compared to the others that have only two and one. So that's all I have for hooking up our little bit. I'll changed Sumatra code to the core backend. So it's a work in progress, and we are communicating with the Sumatra team to make this more useful to you guys and more user experience better for you guys. So I guess I'll see you for the next tutorial video about how to do the same thing with ReproZip and show what the record with ReproZip is, what is it composed of, and kind of make a little bit of difference between what the Sumatra records will give you and what the ReproZip records will give you. So tune in for the next video.